That was the joint press conference for President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and visiting U.S. President Donald Trump after their talks in Sharm el-Sheikh ahead of the start of the Peace Summit, which will be taking place shortly with the participation of world leaders. The U.S. President thanked the President of Egypt, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, for the effort that he exerted in order to reach this peace in the Gaza Strip, and he said that President Sisi did play a very important role to end the war in the Gaza Strip, and he said that he always hailed the efforts exerted by the President to achieve this very important target, and he said that people were skeptical about the possibility of reaching peace in the Gaza Strip, and yet it was achievable, and today we are bearing the fruits, and we did succeed to end the war in the Strip. For his part, President Sisi thanked President Trump for the effort that he did exert in order to reach peace in the region, and he said that he was always keen, and he said before that the president was the only person who is capable to end this war, and he said it many times, and he was really right, as he said, the President Sisi, that the President of the United States, President Trump, was actually successful in the end of, to reach the end of the war. To shed more light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined by Dr. Milad Momtaz, Professor of International Relations. Dr. Momtaz, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure is mine.
Today we are witnessing a very important day for the region, the Summit for Gaza Peace, with the participation of world leaders and co-chaired by President Sisi and U.S. President Donald Trump. How do you see the significance and importance of such a meeting for the peace in the Middle East region, and especially for peace in Gaza?
Okay, I believe that this is a very special day. It's very historic for a couple of reasons. One of them, which I find it is very crucial, that we all have been witnessing the situation for the last 2 years. And how grave and how dangerous was it like. And, you know, even some people, and let me put it straightforward, even some people lost hope and lost faith that, okay, everything would be back on the right track in the Middle East. So I find it as it's like hope is coming back. Peace actually is being on the right track once again. Peace is possible. Peace is achievable. Because if we consider that thing, so many people actually, you know, have been saying for the last 2 years, no, peace is not achievable in the Middle East. I think what we are seeing today proves, you know, that in a very straightforward way that no, peace is achievable, peace is accomplishable. So we can accomplish peace, we can get to peace. And I think, you know, the two leaders today, you know, a couple of minutes ago, I think they were talking about that. That was one of the most important messages of the brief meeting between the two leaders, that it's peace, and peace should prevail, because otherwise the situation in the Middle East would have been so different. And we have seen like precursors of this for the last 2 years, that the agony and the suffering, the endless suffering, you know, in Gaza, you know, and the situation in the West Bank and in so many other areas in the Middle East, and how hazy and dangerous the situation is in the Middle East. So I think today is not only a special day to the Middle East, if I may actually describe it this way. It's a very special day, a historic day to the entire world. Because when we keep on doubting peace and the possibility of achieving peace, I think that raises so many questions in the entire world. Today, that has been heavily averted. I think the whole world nowadays sees it very clearly that no peace can be achieved, as I said.
Yes. Dr. Momtaz, we have witnessed the start of the first phase from the agreement by the release of the detainees and hostages, by the ceasefire implemented on the ground, the return of the Gazans from the south to the north, as well as the retreat of the Israeli army to the yellow lines. Yet we are waiting for the second phase from the agreement to be implemented. So how do you see here the second phase from the agreement that was proposed by U.S. President Donald Trump?
I believe, before we get to phase two, I think, even the achievability of phase one was highly doubted. So I think, when we see this in action, the release of hostages, the release of captives, they are back, the hostages back to Israel, and the captives are back to Gaza and to the West Bank as well. And we see the retreat of the Israeli army. And by the way, the retreat of the Israeli army is not that simple, by the way.
Indeed.
That was something that for the last 2 years, we saw it as something very difficult to achieve. So when we see phase one, and we have been seeing this, phase one in action, we become more hopeful that phase two would be as achievable as, with phase one. Despite the fact that phase two is more challenging, phase two one was challenging, phase two is more challenging than phase one, but I find it's achievable. However, we need to consider the fact that phase two has so many details. They need to discuss, phase two in a much more deeper way. And I think that's one of the key reasons of today's summit. The signing of the ceasefire is something is very, very crucial. But on the other hand, phase two and the details of phase two, and the different schedules, the different deadlines, and the different details, because we talk about the governance, let's say the governance of Gaza. I think that's one of the most challenging points. How we get that through, the committee that would rule Gaza, and because Arabs and Muslim countries, we have been stressing that that should be in the hands of the Palestinians. The Palestinians should have, like the first hand in this, which is, of course, that's very challenging because Israel has been refusing this. So once again, phase two is very crucial because we're building, it's like scaffolding. We're building upon phase one. However, we believe that phase two is as crucial because that's a continuity of phase one, and that gives more hope of the future of peace in the Middle East.
Sir, during the joint press conference ahead of the start of the summit, both President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and U.S. President Donald Trump talked about the importance of the reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and President al-Sisi also did invite the U.S. President to attend the conference which will be taking place for the reconstruction of Gaza. What's your take on the importance of such collaboration in order to start the reconstruction of the Strip?
I believe this invitation is very, very efficient on our side of instructions, because it's not only about that we get the Israeli army out of Gaza. It's about the reconstruction of Gaza, because we need to consider a fact which is very, very crucial. That's what the removal of the rubble, in Gaza, that would take years, not months.
Yes.
We can imagine that would take, let's say, some experts say that would take between 3 to 5 years. So I think, that process is a long process, the reconstruction of Gaza, and not only, I'm talking about phase one, the removal of the rubble, but we cannot imagine, the kind of, work needed. I think that's a lot of work needed to be done in Gaza. And let me remind everyone, there is nothing in Gaza. I mean it. When we see the video footages, the aerial footages coming from Gaza, there is nothing in Gaza. The infrastructure. We need to consider something which is very important as well, that 70 to 80% of the building have been demolished altogether. So when we consider this, we need actually to see it in a much more clearer way that the process of reconstruction is a long process. However, on the other hand, that it's very crucial, because I need to clarify another crucial thing. The reconstruction of Gaza means the settlement of the Gazans, mean Palestinians are not leaving Gaza, because we need actually to link these two processes together. The reconstruction of Gaza and the people of Gaza, the Gazans people staying over there, not leaving Gaza. Forget about displacement. There is nothing called displacement onwards.
Sir, we have to talk here about the participation of the world leaders. We are seeing the participation of more than 20 world leaders and heads of international organizations in the summit. From your point of view, why this huge participation, and to what extent it is important for the peace agreement here and the peace for Gaza to witness such huge participation from world leaders?
Participation of world leaders, is a continuity of the momentum of the international community supporting the Palestinian cause. Because that's what we've been seeing for the last couple of months now. This has been mounting, increasing for the last, I think, 3-4 months. And we have seen it at the United Nations as well. It was very, very obvious that the word itself has said it that enough is enough. So I think, when we see those world leaders coming to Sharm el-Sheikh, I think that is a direct manifestation and evidence that the whole world now has said it. The whole world now is very clear about peace, and we are not going back on this. I think that's another crucial message being uttered by world leaders. We don't want to go back. We believe in peace. We want peace. And we work very hard to achieve this. And that's why we are having the 20 leaders today. It's not only because of the signing of the ceasefire. Of course, the signing of the ceasefire is very crucial. But I think they are looking ahead, the future of peace in the Middle East, and as I said before, the future of peace in the whole world. So I think those leaders, they are here to send out different messages. One of them, which I think that was very difficult before October 7th, that they are saying that we are wholeheartedly supporting the Palestinian cause.
Yes. In the joint press conference, President Sisi said that we have to move quickly with the second phase. We have to end the handover of the bodies of the deceased from the Israelis, from the Israeli hostages to the Israeli side, and to fix the ceasefire agreement and to allow the entry of humanitarian aid and more aid to enter the devastated strip. So how do you see the importance of moving forward quickly with the phases and the process in order to allow the life in the Gaza Strip to resume here on the ground?
I find that as a huge issue. It's about the pace, the time pace thing, the scheduling of the whole thing. We get the fact that it's very important to move ahead, to move onwards regarding this with phase 1, as I said, which has already started, and then with phase 2. However, on the other hand, it's about timing. Timing is very crucial, as you said. And that's, why President Sisi has stressed that. So we need to do it, but in my mind, we shouldn't hasten this. We need to consider that very important. So on one hand, we should do it in a kind of, fast-paced thing so as to help out our brethren in Gaza, because they have been suffering for the last 2 years, and we get that. And let me actually, mention something that you said a couple of minutes ago. It's about, let's say, the humanitarian aid. This thing, specifically when it comes to humanitarian aid, that should be like fast-paced thing. We shouldn't actually say that that should be scheduled. No, I don't believe so. That should be, from day one, from today, from tomorrow. I think that has started already. I think yesterday we saw like 400 convoys, trucks,
Yes.
and I think that number will increase in the coming days, because already the people are suffering in Gaza, and we can't wait on this. They need the humanitarian aid as soon as possible.
Yes.
On the other hand, they need actually to consider the different points, as I said, regarding the scheduling, when and how, and that should be done very precisely. And on the other hand, that should be done very professionally as well.
Yeah. Dr. Milad, how do you see the role here of Europe in order to contribute in the reconstruction of the Strip? And we have seen actually many European leaders that start to talk about their contribution in the reconstruction efforts.
Actually, I appreciate the question. Why is that? Because we need to see the European involvement in that issue, the Palestinian cause itself, before October 7th. I think that was very minimal, by the way, before October 7th. I think everyone saw that. However, in the last, let's say, 8-9 months now, Europe actually is changing wholeheartedly regarding the Palestinian cause. And that actually, goes directly, and the credit goes on this to the public opinion in Europe. Public opinion in Europe has drastically changed towards supporting the Palestinian cause. And we need to see, the first couple of weeks, I still recall, after October 7th, and most of those leaders condemning, the whole thing about what happened, But later on, the same leaders that we are seeing today, those leaders, they are fully and wholeheartedly supporting the Palestinian cause. And that's why I believe that Europe is back on the right track to support, the Palestinian cause. And something else which I find it as very fundamental, they want to play an active role on the international stage. They don't want to be marginalized or put aside. I know that United States of America and the President of the United States of America has the most leverage over Israel. We know that. But on the other hand, Europeans, they are like saying that we are here, we want to be involved, we want to actually play an active part, an active role in all of this. And that's highly appreciated, by the way. We have been waiting for Europe to play that kind of active role in the Middle East rather than being passive, as we saw actually for the last, I think, 2 decades now.
And we have actually seen the attendance of most of the European leaders to take part in the summit. We have seen the attendance of French President, the Prime Minister of England, Prime Minister of Italy, Greece, Hungary, great participation. Germany, we have seen huge participation from the European leaders. What message did we get from this huge participation from the part of the European leaders?
I think the message was very clear at the United Nations. If we still recall what happened at the General Assembly, the meeting, I think it was very often the walk out, the Israeli Prime Minister was talking to, a very handful number of people at the United Nations, very limited number of people that were sitting in front of him. And I think that was very obvious. And let me actually give another very crucial example. We have been seeing, what's going on of the public support in Italy. I'm naming only a single country, a single European country, which is Italy. And we've been seeing the strikes and the demonstrations in Italy to support the Palestinian cause, and elsewhere in Europe, not only in Italy. So I think, Europe has changed. And, if you don't mind, I'd like to say that we need to build on this as soon as possible. I'm talking about Arab and Muslim countries. We should take advantage of this, that Europeans now, they are very much aware of the truth of the, the actuality of what's happening, in Gaza. So I think we need, to build on this as soon as possible.
Dr. Milad Momtaz, Professor of International Relations, thank you so much, sir, for your precious input. It was a real pleasure. Thank you so much indeed. We have seen both President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and visiting U.S. President Donald Trump holding a joint press conference after their talks, after the arrival of the U.S. President to the venue of the conference center, accompanied by the delegation from the United States, as well as the participation of the world leaders in the summit. We have seen both the presidents talking to the reporters about the importance of peace in the Middle East region, and President Trump thanked President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the efforts that he did exert in order to reach a ceasefire and to implement this peace agreement. And he said that the president played an important role to end the war in the Gaza Strip. Also, President Sisi thanked the U.S. President for the efforts that he exerted and his keenness to end the war in Gaza. And he said that he was the only person who was capable to draw an end to this dramatic war in the Gaza Strip that lasted for 2 years. President Sisi also said that we have to move forward as fast as possible with the second phase from the agreement. He said that the bodies of the Israelis, the detainees, should be handed over to the Israeli side as soon as possible, and the allowance of more humanitarian aid to be allowed to the Strip in order to start the reconstruction of Gaza, as of course we have seen after the return of the Gazans to the north, the level of destruction that did take place during the past 2 years of genocide war from Israel on Gaza. Indeed, before coming to Egypt from Tel Aviv, President Trump addressed the Knesset during his speech. He said that we are witnessing a new dawn in the Middle East region, a dawn of peace and stability, and he said that finally the nightmare is over for both the Palestinians and Israelis.